And yes, we are due, as you've indicated, Kumi, to hear from the Attorney General, George Brandis. He's a stickler for detail. He's been waiting a little bit past his due date, but we'll go to him now.
The President of the Senate, Senator Stephen Parry, has announced this afternoon that he is seeking advice from the United Kingdom Home Office as to his citizenship status. Senator Parry's father was born in the United Kingdom and came to Australia in 1951. Senator Parry was born in 1960. Senator Parry has always understood that he is an Australian citizen and that his father was an Australian citizen. But in view of the High Court's decision last Friday, Senator Parry decided to seek advice from the Home Office. That advice has not yet been received, and it is premature to express any conclusions about Senator Parry's status until final and definitive advice is received. But Senator Parry has indicated that if it appears that indeed he holds United Kingdom citizenship, he would resign from the Senate. For the time being, until the facts are clearly established, there is really not anything more that can usefully be said about the matter. It's important to note that Senator Parry came forward voluntarily, as indeed had those government senators and Mr. Joyce himself, who also found themselves in Section 44 difficulties. Are there any questions?
Given this may have happened again, is it time for an audit of the citizenship of all members and all senators?
Well, what has occurred in recent months is that members have come forward if they've identified that they have a problem. They have acted very honourably in doing so. Now, people who are elected to Parliament, whether the Senate or the House of Representatives, whose election is declared, are entitled to take their seats in the Parliament. If anybody wants to make an allegation that a Member of Parliament was not duly elected because of a Section 44 issue or for any other reason for that matter, then let them make that allegation. But in relation to the government members, and also others, including the two Green senators, people have acted honourably. They have come forward as soon as they've identified that they may have a problem, and that is the position.
Given, questions that were raised over Barnaby Joyce, Fiona Nash, Matt Canavan, wouldn't it have been appropriate for Senator Parry to make these checks before then? This story has been around for months.
Well, what Senator Parry has said in his statement issued this afternoon is that he made some inquiries when he appreciated the effect of the High Court judgment. That's the course of action that he took. Evidently, before the High Court's decision, it wasn't something that he'd appreciated may be problematic for him, and we still don't know whether it is problematic until the inquiries which he has initiated of the UK Home Office have been completed. Well, as I've said before, I have no reason to believe that there is anyone else in this position. That is the case, but the High Court has made the law very clear. If people hold a dual citizenship, then the effect of the literal meaning of Section 44 of the Constitution is to make them ineligible to stand for election to the Senate or the House of Representatives. Nobody else has come forward, and I've not seen any evidence that any other Member of Parliament has this problem.
How long has the government been aware of Senator Parry's situation of potential dual citizenship?
I became aware of the potential problem for the first time when Senator Parry contacted me yesterday morning to tell me that he was concerned that he might have a problem and to tell me what steps he had put in train to establish whether or not there was a problem.
And has a replacement for him as Senate President been decided, or even who would replace him in the Senate if he had to leave? Well,
look, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. It's not yet clearly established that Senator Parry is disqualified. In the event that he concludes that he is disqualified because he receives advice that he is a British citizen, then there would be, as was the case in relation to the other senators affected, a countback which would see the election of the next person on the Liberal Party Senate ticket in Tasmania declared elected in his place. But that's we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves now, because we don't yet know for sure that Senator Parry does have this problem. When I spoke to Senator Parry about 2 hours ago, I got the clear impression from him that he thought that he would have this information from the Home Office quite soon, in the next day or so.
How embarrassing is this for the government to come less than a week after the High Court decision?
Well, it's not something that we anticipated, but the fact is that this doesn't affect the government's position in the House of Representatives, of course. The government continues to enjoy the confidence of a majority of the House of Representatives. We are hopeful, although we take nothing for granted, that Mr Joyce will be returned at the New England by-election on the 2nd of December, and everything will be as it was so far as the House of Representatives is concerned. In relation to the Senate, these things are always dealt with by a countback. There are always more people on Senate tickets than there are positions up for election. So it is not, there is no interruption in the ordinary conduct of government for having a countback in a Senate election.
Does there need to be, does the Constitution need to be changed, or is it just your party or your coalition that needs to improve its background checks?
Well, the Prime Minister, after the High Court made its ruling on Friday, referred the Section 44 issue to the Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Matters. Now, it may be that committee comes back with some recommendations about constitutional change, but that's a matter for another day. It may be that the issue can be dealt with legislatively without putting the public to a referendum. But we will await the recommendations of the Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Matters on that issue. But let me simply make the general point. In a nation where 51% of people were either born overseas or have at least one parent who was born overseas, it sits oddly with the notion of a multicultural democracy that the operation of Section 44, as we now understand from the High Court, could potentially be to disqualify millions of Australians from standing for Parliament. Now, that is not a good thing. So in one way or another, the issue does need to be dealt with. Thank you.
And that is the Attorney-General George Brandis speaking there live from Brisbane, commenting on the news this afternoon that Senate President Stephen Parry has asked for clarification on whether he may be a dual citizen. This coming just a few days after the High Court ruling on the Citizenship 7, in which we saw 5 senators and parliamentarians booted out of Parliament.